What's going on? Thank you for checking out this quick case study about this nonprofit food pantry that is up in the Detroit area. And what we did was we helped to expand their online presence, thus improving it and being able to help it be found at the top of search results, which no business owner cares where they're ranked in Google. All right. Us being in business for quite some time, we understand that. But what they do appreciate is a ringing phone and form submits from their website or whatever their web property is. When those results come around, that's what they're ideally looking for with their online presence. Otherwise, they're just spending money and it's not really doing them any good. They might as well spend that doing other resources and avenues like promotionals, fundraisers, galas, whatever it might be. And even though nonprofit organizations exist, they still have business costs. So being able to expand their digital footprint online really matters for this kind of industry. So I'm happy to share with you a couple of aspects as we go along this video, and we'll get started. So this is the current setup of this organization. What they have done after we've handed their website over is they have revamped it, they've adjusted things according to their will and what they see fit. This is not something that was advised by us, and I'll show you what we've actually done and delivered for them online so you can review this video as much as you'd like, and you can see what they've currently used for their digital footprint and explore that further if you so choose. We also have some slides that we're going to go through here as well. But to start off with, we wanted to make sure that they had a solid online presence, and that's something that we needed to work on as a team. So we identified who they were to start out with, and then they have a couple other aspects and a couple bullet points of what they're focusing on in the marketplace. But we had an initial snapshot. We looked at their online presence, and that's always a good starting point. Unlike if you're a doctor that diagnoses and then prescribes, that's probably a better fit than prescribing without diagnosing. So you got to really look at their online presence. And I guess a lot of people in the nonprofit, they just think, oh, just give me the result right away. But even though they're nonprofit, they still have a business format, business operations, business expenses that they have to move forward with. So we had to come up with I guess they call it a RFP, a request for proposal. And I really didn't care for this methodology, but it is what it is, and those were some of the requirements we had to measure up to. So we identified a couple of modifications that we recommended, and then here's a quick list of what we did, and this is what we came up with. It was actually a 33-page website, which we saved them a lot of money, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the key ingredients to this was we had to look at their online presence and compare it to what a mandate was back in 2015, where Google had came up with an update in their algorithm that said they're essentially going to punish companies who don't have a web presence that looks good on all of these internet accessible devices. And a lot of the Fortune 500 companies didn't take that seriously, so this update could be bad news for over 40% of the Fortune 500 companies. So the 500 richest companies in the world, if that's what that means, then they were going to be in a world of hurt. So what we did was we went over to google.com and we did a search for something called the Wayback Time Machine. And it's really called archive.org, but I've always been introduced to this as the Wayback Time Machine. And you can type in just about any web address that you want, and you can go for a browser history. So it'll come up with a calendar, and you can click on whatever year or whatnot that you want to find. And so this was their old online presence. This was a WordPress site. Not saying anything about WordPress, but I am saying that this wasn't working out for them because they had a theme on there that was not mobile responsive. So if you look over here, sometimes websites resize. Well, that's because this is on archive.org. Back when they had this just as their own thing, we would drop this down to the width of a cell phone, and a lot of this page was actually cut off. So we needed to get them a new hosting. And so our project leaned toward keeping their registrar the same, but moving them from a WordPress platform over to a drag and drop easy platform. And this is the comparison. I know this is kind of blurry. This was sort of fast and thrown together for a report, but take it for face value and understand that mobile responsive was a key ingredient to this aspect. And so we went from this all the way to this. And this was cool. Behind this little thing, you'll see menus and stuff. Again, 33 pages. It was really prim, polished. It was stellar, actually. And let's see if I can get this out. Okay. So we'll do this drop down menu. We'll go over to, let's see, one of their service pages. And wow, this is taking a long time. But what's cool about this is we had a contact form, and we were able to use a drop-down menu to have them select on some things. If they wanted to check more than one thing they were interested in, so instead of putting radio buttons, we could have them check multiple items so that when they submitted this form, they'd know what's going on. They can identify if it's just for dependents or me, and then contact me by phone. So they have options to say, hey, I want to volunteer for this specific item. It's just me that wants to volunteer. Here's the best way to get in touch with me. And then let's say they want to have they want to be on the email list. That's fine. Identify how far they live away. And then you go to the more invasive questions. And it's sort of like a little filter, kind of like a psychology thing here. And this actually worked very well, as you'll see later in the case study. But getting back to it, this is kind of what they did above where we actually had ours. So to each their own, they decided to do something a little different with their online presence. But at the time when we created this, we also knew that this nonprofit organization was looking for a way to bring interns in, and they weren't sure what to do. So when we had a contact form submitted where somebody actually requested, it was another college student from another college, wanted to come in and serve as an intern for the summer, but they didn't know what to do with them. So we created 12 videos, and we hid it behind some weird phrase like web and easy. Like, who's going to think to try and hack a web page that looks like that? They're not even going to know to search for that. And so we made it a password protected page, and we put 12 videos on there that walk them through how to manage this website and a couple tools there, so they could not even require the intern to show up at the office on a regular basis. It's all done through the internet, so they can log in, they can access, they can edit, and life will be good. They even have their separate portal. It was a really good fit. And then we went over to google.com/places, which is originally where you need to go to claim your Google map listing. But this is what it looked like in the past. So we took a quick snapshot of that because we knew we were going to make this report. And then this is what we did with it. And I'm sure they've probably made edits or changed it over the years. This was back in 2017. We did this in the earlier part of the year. But the good, exciting news was we were able to claim this. And then this was one of the factors that actually helped them to get to the top of search results and be on the first page of Google as well. And in this map pack, what you're looking for when you're in the map listing is that's where over 70% of the marketplace who are searching for things like this are actually going to go and look for somebody, especially in the local space. So I'm not saying that people in this search area over here doesn't get results or doesn't get clicks or web visitors coming there, but this is targeting where you really want to be. And we were able to get to the map listing for multiple search terms. It wasn't just the specific food pantry or the region. Now, these were stats that we had to collect for the report, and we had to do this early on. So I'm not trying to skew them in a certain favor, but these aren't exactly accurate because by the time we actually presented this number increased from just 639 views of pages upwards of 1,025. That's the exact number I remember. I'm sure it was more than one search term that was going on there. And then with the referring sites, these are just, referring backlinks or where other visitors are coming from. So that's really exciting to have multiple sources coming to that. But we've divided this between unique visitors and page views. So you can see the page views, they're higher, which demonstrates that web visitors are actually coming to multiple pages when they go to visit this. And that's a good thing. That reduces this fantastic looking idea called a bounce rate. And that's more of a paid advertising word and strategy. But even on search results, it's nice to know that people are staying here and they're digging through the website instead of just hopping on saying, oh, that looks nice and leaving. That's actually one of the things that improved from this old layout to this new layout. It was a lot more user-friendly, it was engaging, and the audience really enjoyed it. So that's partially the result of this. So keywords of interest, and we didn't list all of them, but we want you to know that it had to be specific search terms that were related to this. So food banks, food pantries, whether they're typing in a zip code or whether they're typing in, food pantry, city and state, or the zip code. And these can be variations of it, but the idea is you really want to target the region. And that's what we did. And then we also customized each of these forms, and we made a different page for interested in volunteering. That's what they wanted. That's what the client wanted. However, some of these forms on these pages, like the internal pages instead of the volunteer page, they actually got more volunteer form submits when they actually saw something there. It's like, I would like to. They click on one of these. It said volunteer, and they took advantage of that as a web visitor. So I'm not saying that this wasn't a popular item. I mean, they still had a place that they could run a Facebook ad if they wanted to have more volunteers in the region. So this is just a quick ditty of how we did it, some of the processes that we did, from creating a Gmail account to going to the GMB, verifying this, and contact forms, calls to actions. Here's some of the results. Again, this was a momentary report, but we also had clickable links, make things mobile friendly, and encourage people to click to call a phone number and stuff like that. So essentially, we engaged web visitors, and we talked to a number of agencies that price this. We had some of them actually price them $10, $15. One even quoted it $30,000 for a 33-page website with all of the bells and whistles that we put on there. And it was really interesting to take a snapshot. This is really all I could funnel on here. So I wanted to take the ones that were closer together and make a list of those to give an average. So we had a range here of anywhere from $3,500 to almost $7,000. Add the GMB verification, that's another $1,000 on this. And then the average website rebuild, just the rebuild alone, was about $5,000. And then the average total cost, which is where it included the GMB verification. It didn't skew the number too much, but still you're sitting at about $5,000. All numbers considered, it was actually over $10,000 that we had saved the company. So how does this help? Well, you're looking at this image here, and it's talking about us and it's inviting them to contact us, versus something that's a little bit more polished, where you're actually putting content, you're discussing the people, you're discussing their accolades and their conditions. And when you start putting a face to the brand, it becomes more relatable, more personable. It's no longer this third-party abstract entity that only exists on paper. It's not a shell company anymore. It's actually a group of people that they're inviting their community to come and get to know them, connect with them, and see if there's more opportunities for them to help one another. So these are some of the documentations that we've collected from the form entries. And even though this says contact us, we want you to understand that people have submitted things, and for specific purposes too. Either they need assistance, they want to donate and contribute. Some people want to volunteer, or they want to drop something off. And then one classroom even said that they wanted to do a canned good drive, and they offered something called a community vegetable garden. I don't remember what it was. But this was around Earth Day in March 31st of 2017. So they invited them to step in and say, hey, let's see what we can do to participate. Let's jump in. Just email us at the address above. And that's why I felt comfortable snapshotting this, is because there wasn't any personally identifiable information in there. So that felt good there. And then recommendations. So we actually partnered with a couple people. We partnered with a group that was focused on social media. They actually helped their social media to get expanded a little bit, got more Facebook page fans and awareness into the marketplace just through social media. It was great engagement. And also, the social media group entered them into a competition, I think, and they got $500 just for winning something as a nonprofit organization. And then this group that helped them to apply for grants, what was exciting about that is they put together a system, or moved toward putting a system together, because they had a stack of grants that they wanted to apply for. It was ridiculous, the sheer volume of grants that they had in a stack of papers. So they printed all out. They printed out all of these applications, but they just didn't have time to get to them. So they systematized. The grant team did. They systematized a way. Systemized? I can't talk, but essentially, they put together a system to apply for grants, and they helped them to streamline things forward, and then it was up to them to take care of that going forward. Maybe they had some interns, or maybe as money started coming in, they could afford to pay people to get in. Also, other recommendations that we made were to optimize the website, do some SEO, do some call tracking, and actually really hire somebody who could expand their digital footprint as they saw fit. And then this goes back to adding content. That was our number one recommendation. And this is based on Google's own statements. They want to provide high quality content on their pages, especially your homepage. And then Google takes it a step further to say this is the single most important thing to do. So we made that recommendation, and I'm sure they've added a little bit of content. But you also have to make it appealing and user friendly and engaging, because that user experience is what society seems to be leaning closer toward. So if you change up the user experience from just a little bit of flooded information to actually something that they start clicking on and engaging with, it really is a different beast altogether. But they're kind of using this as more of a billboard or an announcing and soundboard at the moment. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I mean, it's just a different way to do things. But that's not how I would approach it, having been in the SEO space for quite some time. So I hope you found this case study incredibly informative. We were more than happy to share with you some of these details. If you think we have a few tricks up our sleeve, go ahead, reach out to us. Otherwise, hit like and subscribe. We're happy to share with you some more case studies and more information about how to expand an online digital presence, learn a little bit more. And we actually work with some marketing agencies going forward, back and forth. And we're happy to partner on some jobs too, so just reach out. And with that, thank you very much for your time.